It was supposed to be a moment of generosity. Dwayne Johnson standing shoulder to shoulder with Oprah, announcing a massive relief fund for victims of the Maui wildfires. He pledged $10 million of his own money, smiling into the camera, calling on fans to chip in. But instead of applause, the reaction was anger. Thousands of people flooded the comments. "You're worth hundreds of millions, and you're asking us to give? Math ain't mathing with this one." The backlash was brutal. What should have been a proud moment of philanthropy became another headline about tone-deaf celebrities asking ordinary people, many living paycheck, to pick up the tab. And for The Rock, it marked something bigger, a crack in the image, because here was the man who built a career on being the people's champ, suddenly looking more like a polished brand ambassador than an authentic human being. So the question became, how did Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Hollywood's golden boy, WWE's larger-than-life icon, go from beloved hero to someone fans openly mocked, doubted, and booed? Before we dive in, make sure you are subscribed to the Celeb Spring so you won't miss out on more stories like this. Before Hollywood, before billion-dollar franchises and tequila empires, The Rock was wrestling's chosen one, 8-time WWE champion, electrifying arenas with catchphrases, eyebrow raises, and charisma that made even the nosebleeds feel like the front row. But here's the thing most people forget, even at his absolute peak, the cheers were never unanimous. For every Rocky chant, there was a low rumble of boos, an undercurrent of resistance, a subtle rejection of the idea that he was the guy. That disconnect sat in the background for years, overshadowed by his undeniable star power, but it was always there. A reminder that maybe The Rock wasn't as universally beloved as the WWE machine wanted us to believe. Fast forward 2 decades to WrestleMania 40. The storyline was clear. Cody Rhodes was supposed to finish his father's legacy, to finally dethrone Roman Reigns after years of meticulous storytelling. Fans had waited for this moment, invested emotionally in what was framed as wrestling's ultimate underdog triumph. And then, The Rock showed up. At 51, already cemented as a legend, he walked back into the main event spotlight, not because the fans demanded it, not because the story needed it, but simply because he could. Because being The Rock meant you could rewrite endings. The crowd reaction wasn't what WWE expected. Not thunderous cheers, not reverence for a returning icon, but boos. Loud, sustained boos. Fans felt robbed. They believed one man's ego had hijacked a story that wasn't his to tell. Even veterans noticed. CM Punk, never one to filter his words, put it bluntly. Trust me, this isn't sour grapes. But the fact that Dwayne is in the main event of WrestleMania, and I'm not, makes me sick. On February 2nd, 2024, WWE uploaded a clip of The Rock confronting Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes on SmackDown. By all accounts, it should have been a viral highlight. Instead, it became infamous. The most disliked video in WWE's YouTube history. Over 54,000 thumbs down and counting. For a man who once embodied the people's champ, it was the cruelest irony. The people had turned. This is the thing about The Rock. He's never just been a wrestler or an actor. He's always been a character, carefully written, endlessly promoted, sculpted to inspire. But characters aren't people, and when the curtain slips, when the real Dwayne Johnson peeks through, the response has never been as warm. On Instagram especially, fans started to see a pattern, posts that felt less like windows into his life, and more like press releases for his brand. A man less authentic, more manufactured. When you're Dwayne Johnson, every detail of your life becomes marketable. The workouts, the cheat meals, the cheat days so big they became memes. His Instagram, with nearly 400 million followers, became not just a social feed, but an extension of the Dwayne Johnson brand. But the problem with living online is simple. The internet doesn't forget. Take the burger story. In 2017, The Rock posted proudly, "I've never been to In-N-Out before." A cheat meal, framed as a milestone. Fans loved it. 5 years later, in 2022, he posted again. "This is my first time trying In-N-Out." Same excitement, same framing. Only now people remembered, and then, unbelievably, in 2023, a third post. "This is the very first time I've ever had an In-N-Out burger." 3 first times in 7 years. For an ordinary person, you could chalk it up to a bad memory, but this wasn't ordinary. This was a man whose every word was scrutinized, whose brand was built on authenticity, and fans noticed. Reddit threads lit up with side-by-side screenshots. YouTube channels made compilations. Comment sections filled with sarcastic jokes. At this rate, he should just make it an annual tradition. My first time at In-N-Out. It wasn't about the burger, it was about trust. Because if The Rock could fabricate something so small, a cheap meal, a first time, what else was he spinning? For years, The Rock had hyped Black Adam as his passion project. 15 years in the making, the film that would, in his words, change the hierarchy of power in the DC universe. And with his influence, he didn't just star in the movie, he reshaped the character itself. Traditionally, Black Adam was Shazam's nemesis, a villain, a dark reflection of the hero. But under Johnson, that history got pushed aside. Instead, Black Adam became a standalone anti-hero, untouchable, practically invincible, which to fans sounded familiar, because for years there had been whispers about Dwayne's contracts, clauses that his characters couldn't lose fights on screen, a way of protecting the brand, a kind of built-in invincibility. On paper, maybe that sounded epic, but on screen it felt hollow. When Black Adam finally premiered in 2022, the results were underwhelming. Critics called it bloated, formulaic, safe. Fans didn't hate it, they just didn't care. And the numbers told the truth. The movie needed nearly $600 million just to break even. It topped out around $393 million. Not a smash hit, not even close. But instead of admitting the stumble, Johnson doubled down. On Twitter, he insisted the film was profitable, pointing to a Deadline article that seemed to back him up. Later, it came out the numbers in that article. They came straight from his own camp. It wasn't analysis, it was spin, and to fans, that was worse than the flop itself. Because this wasn't just a failed superhero movie, it was a failed attempt to rewrite reality. For someone who'd built a career on being the most authentic guy in the room, the illusion cracked. And for once, everyone could see the fracture lines.
So when you look at his physique in the early days of the WWE.
Oh, nothing in comparison.
Yeah, let's go to like the early days of The Rock. I mean, he was like very athletic, great genetics, big, strong guy.
Yeah.
But he didn't look anything like he looks now. The mass and the striations and the vascularity.
This version of him did.
And then there's the elephant in the room, or maybe the bicep in the room. At 51, The Rock still has a physique that bodybuilders in their prime struggle to achieve. Bulging muscles, shredded abs, almost zero body fat. Publicly, he credits it to insane discipline, 6,000 to 8,000 calories a day, and non-stop training. But experts have called it out. Those numbers don't add up. To maintain that body naturally at that age is nearly impossible. Testosterone levels decline, recovery slows down, muscles don't grow bigger in your 50s than they were in your 30s, unless you've got help. And yet The Rock never addresses the whispers about steroids or hormone therapy. He dodges, he stays silent, which only makes people more suspicious. Because in a career built on transparency and motivation, silence feels like an answer. By now, it wasn't just one slip up, it was a pattern. The lies weren't huge at first. A burger here, a calorie count there, but stacked on top of movie flops, contract clauses, PR spin, and a body that looked too good to be true. Fans started to connect the dots. Dwayne Johnson didn't look like an inspiring hero anymore. He looked like a corporation in sneakers. And once that realization set in, the backlash was impossible to ignore. August 2023, wildfires ripped through Maui, leaving families homeless, entire neighborhoods reduced to ash. In the middle of that tragedy, Dwayne Johnson and Oprah Winfrey launched the People's Fund of Maui, a charity asking everyday Americans to donate. On paper, it sounded noble, but the reaction was brutal. Comments poured in, "You're worth hundreds of millions. Oprah's a billionaire, and you're asking us, people living paycheck to paycheck, to give." The outrage wasn't just about money, it was about disconnect. For years, The Rock had sold himself as one of us, the people's champ, the guy who never forgot his roots, the humble hero who rose from nothing. But now, he looked like another out-of-touch celebrity, standing on a mountain of wealth, asking the struggling masses to do the heavy lifting. And for the first time, his man of the people mask slipped. That's the irony of Dwayne Johnson. For 2 decades, his greatest strength wasn't his muscles, or his movies, or even his charisma. It was his brand. The brand said he was authentic, relatable, a hero in real life, not just on screen, but brands are fragile things. And once people see cracks, fake Instagram posts, Hollywood ego, PR spin, tone-deaf charity appeals, the illusion collapses. Suddenly, fans weren't laughing with him. They were laughing at him. The same motivational speeches that once inspired millions started to sound rehearsed, even hollow. The Rock was still everywhere, but instead of cheers, years, he was met with skepticism. The downfall of Dwayne Johnson isn't like the scandals that ended other stars. There was no single catastrophic moment, no one crime or betrayal. It was death by 1,000 cuts. Little lies, little spins, little choices that chipped away at the image he had built. Because in the end, The Rock didn't lose the public's trust by being caught doing something terrible. He lost it by trying too hard to be perfect. And maybe that's the lesson. When a celebrity becomes more corporation than human, more brand than person, the downfall isn't a scandal. It's simply the moment we all stop believing. And if you've been following along, you know how quickly these stories unravel. So if you want to catch the next one before it fades, stick around. Hit like, maybe subscribe. Fame doesn't last forever, but these stories will keep coming.